These are our Frenzy Faves.
Today, our Frenzy Faves is a favorite Twilight Zone episode.
So, Chris, tell us about the episode we're looking at today.
Thanks, Prof, for looking at the episode entitled And When the Sky Was Open. This was from Season 1. It was Episode 11. It was directed by Douglas Hayes. The teleplay was done by Rod Serling. And this was based on a story called Disappearing Act by Richard Matheson. Our cast is as follows. We had Rod Taylor as Lieutenant Colonel Clegg Forbes, Charles Aidman as Colonel Ed Harrington, Jim Hutton as Major William Gart, Maxine Cooper as Amy, Sue Randall played the nurse, Paul Breyer was the bartender, Joe Bassett played a medical officer, Gloria Paul played a girl in the bar, and Elizabeth Fielding played a blonde nurse. We'll get to that cast in a moment. Prof, what happened in this particular episode?
We see an X-20 experimental aircraft crashed in the desert. So it was a strange situation. Like when the craft took off, the craft disappeared from radar and then surfaced many days later, crashed into the sands. Major Gart is in the hospital with a broken leg. Colonel Forbes, who is also part of the crew and recently left the hospital, goes to visit Gart, but he's obviously upset. He asks Gart if he remembers him, and what was he doing the last time he saw him? Gart replies that, well, yeah, it was yesterday. You left the hospital and you said goodbye. Forbes says no, he left the hospital room with their other crewmate, Colonel Ed Harrington. Gart has no memory of Harrington, and even the newspaper points out that there were only 2 members of the ill-fated crew that crashed. Forbes tells the story of what happened when he left the hospital room the day before. So Harrington was a very outgoing guy who's always joking around, and everybody seemed to like him. After they said goodbye to Gart, they went out drinking. They saw the newspaper that showed 3 crew members on the ill-fated mission. Harrington said he felt weird, like he shouldn't be there. Like when they disappeared from the scopes, they should have been gone forever. Someone made a mistake and let them return. He goes to call his parents to say hello, and they have no idea who he is. We don't have a son named Ed. And then they look at the newspaper. Now it shows only 2 crew members. Ed is upset and ultimately goes into the phone booth again and disappears from reality. Now, no one but Forbes remembers Ed, even the other people at the bar that he was just drinking with. It was as if he never existed at all. Now, when he goes back and tells that to Gart, Gart says he has no memory of Ed and thinks Forbes might have a little space madness, but he also does trust his crewmate. Forbes says he's feeling like he should have died in the mission too, like he's out of place here and doesn't belong. He looks into the mirror and sees that he doesn't cast a reflection, and he runs out of the room upset. Gart looks to follow him, but Forbes has disappeared. Then Gart looks at the newspaper, and it shows only 1 member of the ill-fated crew, himself. He asks a nurse about Forbes, but she has no memory of him. Then it's Gart's turn. Bye-bye, Major. Also, the X-20 plane is gone. This episode had a lot of good stuff in it. I liked the weird concept, people disappearing from reality, like jumping onto different time streams where they never existed. And what I really like about this episode is it doesn't make any attempt to answer why. These guys disappeared, and now this weird thing is happening to them. Who knows? Just accepts it, and that all of these disappearances are just fate. And I like how all 3 disappearing pilots get very agitated and upset about disappearing right before they go. Now, also, Gart was played by Jim Hutton, who also played Ellery Queen in the 70s, which is a show that I loved. And, so it was great to see Jim Hutton, a very young Jim Hutton, in this. I think this episode wasn't like one of my favorites. It was a little janky, but it was super effective. Rod Taylor was really, really good as Colonel Forbes. He was great. But I don't think that's too big a problem, considering last week's Twilight Zone episode was so good, the Maple Drive episode. So, Chris, what are some of your memories of And When the Sky Opened?
Thanks, Prof. Let me get some trivia out of the way before I forget. Charles Aidman, who was one of the guys in this episode, was also in the Twilight Zone episode Little Girl Lost. Sue Randall, who played the nurse, was probably best known as Beaver's teacher, Miss Landers, on Leave It to Beaver, and she also appeared in the Twilight Zone episode For Magnus with Love. Prof, I have to circle back to something you said, because you liked the fact that they didn't answer any questions. And as a kid, that bothered the hell out of me, and I hated that reason. But I flipped as I've grown older, and I concur with you now. I do like that. I flipped as I've gotten a little more mature with respect to that. I have to take a step back and just appreciate all of the acting performances in this episode, because we had Aidman, we had Taylor, and we had Hutton, and each of them was marvelous with what they were given to do. And I think they're all different characters. They are all well defined, but they each made the role their own. And Aidman, I think we can mention as a potential that guy, because he's appeared in so much stuff. And I think it's a shame that he's really never had like an existing show where he appeared on TV on a more frequent basis. And I think it would have been nice to see him. Taylor, of course, had a movie career, what with The Birds and The Time Machine. Yeah. And then we had Hutton, who was really, really good in this, and who, like, as you said, Prof, the excellent show, Ellery Queen, just a marvelous, marvelous performance there as well. But each of them had their moments in this one, and particularly Taylor and more so Hutton, where there were moments where they were just questioning their sanity and they just snap. And I think for them to deliver was just a tour de force of acting, with them really, really selling it, just questioning their sanity and their credibility with the situation they were in. And it's just the gut punch, because you have something tangible as the newspaper, and the newspaper is like, to me, a symbolic thing of like, this is the actual events of record. And when you see something wiped out, it's like, what do you mean? That it's like their mind is blown at this point, because it's something that's disproven to them that they know to be different. And you could just see when their mind snaps. Yeah. And it's very disturbing. I think you might want to just caution even like a younger viewer, just to say, oh, they may not get it, or what's happening to these characters. But these actors sell it so well, and they're all effective in what they're asked of, and to pull it together. Really, really good stuff. I have grown more to like this episode as I've gotten older, because it is really, really good. And when I was young, I really just didn't understand what the point of it all was, but now I get to see it, and who are we to say what's real and what's not now? Do we think of, am I in this reality? Am I being manipulated? It does give you pause and food for thought a little bit with respect to this, though. The performances were really, really good. It is a somewhat of, I think, of a, it's one of my favorites, and I don't think it's sort of like a diamond in the rough. I don't think it's as beloved as maybe it could be, but I think for me, it's the performances that really, really stand out in this one. And when we talk about characters who've done multiple Twilight Zone, or actors who have done multiple Twilight Zones, I think it's a shame that, Hutton hasn't done any more, and Taylor didn't do any more, because I think they really could have, I could have seen these guys perhaps in different roles or episodes where they really, really could have been effective in this particular series. So really, really good stuff here. I enjoy this episode quite a bit. I happen to know it's one of the mascots of our show. Robin's one of her favorite episodes as well. So I am glad we're covering this, and it is a treat. It really, really is a good one. And I think I would rank this probably in the top 10.
Oh, wow. Okay, great. So that is one of our favorite Twilight Zone episodes.
We got some comments we'd like to share, and listeners, thank you so much. We really sincerely appreciate you chiming in. We heard from our friend Billy D from the Magazines and Monsters podcast feed. And he said the following: "Hey, I love the Suspiria episode. You guys are choosing some fantastic films. Really looking forward to the show every week. And thank you for the plugs. Much appreciated." Right back at you, Billy D, because plug standing by, queued up and chambered. But I said it to you before, and I'll say it to you again. When you reach out, I am just so humbled because you're like one of the masters of critiquing and reviewing horror films, and you've got a lot more under the belt than I certainly do. So when you take the time to do that, I'm just totally floored because I revere you, Billy D. So when you take that and come at me and just take the time to say, "Hey, I listened and I like it," wow, that is high praise indeed. So I can't thank you enough, Billy D. My friend. Again, the feed is Magazines and Monsters. Please check it out. Billy D, stand by. I'll give you a better plug in a second. We, at one point, looked at the Twilight Zone episode, Long Live Walter Jameson. We heard from Joe Bloggs 396, and he said, "I prefer Escape Clause, which has great acting and script. No idea why this other episode is more famous, but I'd say with some other episodes which are under/overrated. I think we have yet to look at Escape Clause, and I believe that's with David Wayne. I think that's a decent episode. Now, I don't know what I have an issue with respect to Escape Clause, because perhaps, spoiler alert, the character is somewhat irredeemable in the end, and he does this drastic thing but he gets, in the true Twilight Zone fashion, he gets his comeuppance there. But there's some interesting moments, and I think that's a good comparison. So I cannot thank Joe Bloggs 396 for chiming in, because I think we should do an examination of Escape Clause and perhaps stand it up and compare it to some other Twilight Zone episodes.
Yeah, we could put it on the list.
Indeed, because our hopper is looking kind of thin, isn't it, Professor? We were talking before the show. We were just like, yeah, we better get some stuff on to talk about here. So yeah, we're definitely going to add that one in our queue. So thank you so much, Joe Bloggs. Word from our friend John Manfredi, 810. "I consider The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street and To Serve Man as the two best Twilight episodes of all time, Professor." Tough to debate that, because I think the first one for me would be probably To Serve Man. And when I talk to other Twilight Zone aficionados, hands down, they say it's The Monsters Are Due on Maple Street. Both really superior episodes. I think, of course, I put them in my personal top 5 for sure. It'd be fun to compile, but then when you put such a list, it's so difficult, because I love so many episodes. We
were just talking about 22 earlier. That's one of the ones I love.
That's my sister's favorite. Yes, indeed. Yep. And we heard from Random Poster 5665. Time Enough at Last is the greatest episode, hands down.
Love it.
Interesting.
I love it.
Yes.
Everybody loves the Twilight.
Nia Plays. Yep. 4529. Nia Plays said A World of His Own. That's the favorite episode for there. So yeah, it's an interesting debate. Yeah. I love getting into those Twilight Zone. What's people's favorite episodes, and it's everyone has their own.
Tell us what you
everyone
think.
Has their own.
Right, to the audience. Everybody, chime in on YouTube or social. Tell us what your favorite Twilight Zone episode is, and we'll see if we can get it on our list.
Mm-hmm. Hey, we got another comment from our friend Billy D. Well, we talked about Hell House. And Billy D said, "Thanks. Hell House is a fun movie. Looking forward to listening. You guys are killing it." Wow. Thank you, Billy D. Again, such high praise. We appreciate that. We heard from our friend Cat Victory. Just said, Roddy McDowell is great. I don't know if that was reference to a Twilight Zone movie or something else we might have talked about recently.
I think Hell House.
Hell House, which would make total logical sense, because that's the most recently thing I think we talked about with Roddy McDowell. So yes, indeed. Thank you, Cat Victory. When we talked about Suspiria, Cat Victory said, "Join myself and the professor as we review a weird and scary movie on Frenzy Frights, a Professor Frenzy Show podcast." Thank you very, very much. And early in the episode, the prof mentioned, quote, "Bad meat was stored in the attic." I'm sure the attic is both the best and worst place to store bad meat. I just hope I get to use that line in real life someday. See, boy, people are really listening carefully, and I applaud Cat Victory for that. But a PSA here that we want to get out, and this unfortunately befell our friend Cat Victory. Cat Victory's account got hacked over on Twitter/X, so throw another warning out there. And Cat Victory is now at Real Cat Victory, and thank you. So if you get a direct message sending out some type of thing, there could be some scam surveys out there. Don't click anything. And poor Cat Victory, I feel for you, because I have to say I got something that was from a podcast listener, and it totally looked legitimate. Yep. So there is something going around out there. So please, everyone, Prof, you got the PSA out there. Everyone change your social passwords would be a good idea, correct?
Yes, absolutely. That's the best thing you can do. Just go through, have a list of all your social network accounts, and just change new passwords every couple of weeks, because it's getting bad. I have Instagram friends, and there was just a huge hack on Instagram, and they're all losing their accounts. It's a big deal. So just be safe, change your passwords, and keep them changed periodically.
Indeed. And continuing along with some of the news, Prof, you're over on Blue Sky. You heard about a friend of ours, Herman, dropped an article about horror comics.
Oh, yeah.
And then what happened? Billy D checked it out, and what happened?
And he
there?
said that he heard about a lot of the modern comics in the article from our podcast. So that was awesome.
Wow, that's great.
Herman's an awesome guy. Billy D, obviously, is an awesome guy. And it's wonderful to be mentioned in their conversations.
Indeed. And we've got some great news about our friend Randy. Randy Andrews has a new coloring book, which I think he's up to number 3, if I'm not mistaken, if I got my tally correct.
So awesome. Yep. He's doing great.
Well, with that, we'll move on to our roll call of plugs and shout-outs. We'll start with the mascot of our show, Robin at Robin031. Robin, thank you, babe. You're the love of my life and the inspiration. Thank you so much for letting me do this and continuing on. I want to give a plug to our friend Mikey, a.k.a. Two Sleeps at Two Sleeps Music. Before I forget, I want to give a shout out to Kara, who, I don't know what you say, co-produces the show, co-manages the show. She runs a lot of things behind the scenes with respect to this. Two Sleeps, our buddy Mike, puts on a concert twice a week, and it's for free. You can catch it online. So on Sunday afternoons, go on to your computer, in your search engine, type in Two Sleeps Music Twitch TV. Then at 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central, you'll get a link to a concert of live music. Once you're there, sign up, get involved in an interactive chat, and then in that chat window, there'll be a link to a song list where you can request one of over 200 songs. Yes, 200 songs that Two Sleeps will play. Great musicianship. Talented gentlemen, fine as they come. What might you hear? You might hear some Beatles, 8 days a week. You might hear some Monkees, Daydream Believer. A couple of my favorites, Tom Petty. Oh, how about some Foo Fighters? Oh, gosh, how about some Commander Cody? How about some Stray Cats? Who am I forgetting? Might hear some Johnny Cash every now and then. Oh, gosh. Buddy Holly. CCR. I love me some Buddy Holly. I love me some CCR. If it's there, you'll hear it. Bob Seger. Huge, tremendous list of things there. How about some James Taylor, a little Fire and Rain, perhaps? Yes. Music really boosts my mood and gets me in a right frame of mind. So those are one of the many songs on this playlist. And not to be outdone, you can also catch the concert on Tuesday evenings, 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central. Very inexpensive Patreon for $1 mere dollar. $1 mere dollar, you can get original content via Patreon. Thank you, Two Sleeps at Two Sleeps Music. Randy, let me give a better plug, my friend. You're on Twitter /X at Rando_1, Frumpy Sketch Artist on Blue Sky. Each and every day, Randy will give you a sample of his talent with a robotic sketch. Please give it a like. Better still, why don't you go on Amazon and order 1, 2, or all 3 of Randy's coloring books. Before I forget, Randy also does a very well-produced podcast called Soundtrack Alley. In that podcast, Randy will look at a film and check out how music enhances it, along with some film trivia and background. I always look at it with a different lens after I hear Randy's podcast, along with some fantastic movie trivia. It's a well-produced podcast. Billy D, thank you very much for your past comments this past week. Your main feed is Magazines and Monsters. Over on that podcast feed, Billy D will look at a Bronze Age horror comic book, or he might look at a horror movie along with a guest. Fantastic stuff. Most recently, him and Ed from Teal Productions, another fine podcaster, have been looking at the Jack Kirby Black Panther comic. Wow. these are books I remember picking up from the 7-Eleven spinner rack when I was a kid. As such, all of Billy D's podcasts give me some great nostalgia feels, and I love the deep dives that he does on these podcasts. Now, along with the aforementioned podcast that I mentioned, probably my personal favorite is The Brave and the Bob, which looks at comics written by Bob Haney, a.k.a. Zany Bob Haney, which mostly cover works that he did in the Brave and Bold comic, which were Batman team-ups from back in the day. But not to be outdone, it could be an issue of Teen Titans, perhaps, or even World's Finest. Nonetheless, if Bob Haney wrote it, Billy D will cover it. I love these deep dives because it always takes my mind to a different place in a different time when I was a child reading these fantastic stories written by Bob Haney. And I can remember where I was when I read these particular comic books. And I cannot thank him enough for all the creative output that he's putting out there. Thank you so much, Billy D. Listener emeritus, it's our buddy Mac Rocks. It's our longtime friend, D.S. May Collins. Thank you so much for your support. It's our buddy Chris Hamby. It's our longtime friend, The Gringo. It's our friends Darren and Ruth at the Rad Adventures Network with a whole plethora of podcasts. Please check them out. And it's our buddy Bill Beer, who does a podcast called The Bat Pod, along with Jay David, who looks at current issues of Batman along with some blasts from the past. Thank you, one and all. If I overlooked you, I deeply apologize. So let me know at BTM Bat Books. I will correct the oversight. And better still, let the professor know at Professor Frenzy to cover all the bases. Listeners, thank you for dropping in, and thank you for your continued support.
Just another Tom, Dick, or Dave. These are our